Hey guys, we are going to be working with box plots today. I'm getting this from the textbook, so in case you're wanting to follow along with your book, you can go to the apps page. You are probably very familiar with this. Press McGraw Hill. And then from this point, I don't know if ours looks the same or different. I'm going to just select the teacher edition. You probably have the student edition there. And I have my book already opened up to the right pages. So this is page 757. So this is what I'm using. And it looks like this on my side because I guess my printer ink ran out of blue. So anyway, so if you've already started the Edgenuity, you can tell that we're working with box plots and dot plots. So I'm going to do two separate videos about this. Okay? So this one is a box plot. And it says, Mr. Singh surveyed the students in his first period gym class to find out how many times they exercised this month. The box plot shows the results. What inferences can you make from this data? So what are the things that we can tell about this data? So here are some of the things that we can find in a box and whisker plot. Okay, so a box and whisker, so there's the box. You should have done this last year, at least created them before. Okay, and these would be called the whiskers. So whenever you create one, I normally start with my minimum and my maximum, which is the smallest and the greatest, or least and greatest. So when I look here, it looks like the least value, it looks like we're skip counting by fives here. My least value is 0, so that would be the minimum. And the greatest value on the end of this whisker looks like it's 30. Okay. And then we also have something called the range. Your range is your biggest minus smallest. Okay. So biggest minus smallest. Okay. So 30 take away 0, which is 30. Now I'm not subtracting it because of this number. I'm subtracting it because of this dot. The dot is over the 30. So that means 30 is actually part of the data set. Okay. So I want you also to write down the word spread, because a lot of times when they're talking about data on a box and whisker plot, they use the word spread instead of range. Okay, so they use those interchangeably. Okay, so trying to move this up a little bit. Also, one thing you need to know about your box and whisker plot is they're broken into fourths, and we call those the quartiles. So we have our first quartile, second quartile, third quartile, fourth quartile. So right here we would call that Q1, Q2, and that's the middle, the median, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And so normally the ones we would want to label would be Q1, no, Q2, and Q3. And the reason we're not labeling Q2 is because we call that something different. We call that the median, okay? Median, which is the middle number of an ordered set. Okay, so Q1, it wants to know what Q1 is. Well, it looks like it's right above that 5. So for the first quartile, we're going to put 5. In Q3, we're going to put 20. So your first quartile and your third quartile form the ends of the box. Okay? So you can tell that right here, that is our box. So when you subtract these numbers, that's called the interquartile range, okay? So whenever you do a box plot, we actually have two ranges. We have the spread, or the range of the entire data set, then we have the interquartile range. So your interquartile range would be subtracting these two numbers. And they're really nice because we're not having to guess what these are, okay? So 20 take away 5, so I'm getting 15, okay? And then the last one says, what is the median? Well, median is the number in the middle, okay? Now, it doesn't mean it's right in the middle from here to here, but it's actually this middle number right there. So even though this is what we call non-symmetric, this is not a symmetric plot here, this one is the median. So the median would actually be 10, and that's the middle number of the data. So if you were to write down all of the numbers in the data set in order, 10 is the number that would be considered the middle number. Okay? So again, this is on page 757. And now I'm going to move down here, and this is on page 758. Okay? So this first part, these are just some notes. I'm not going to read all of this, but I think this is good for you to know. So you can see here, this is symmetric. So we can kind of see there's equal amounts on both sides from the center. This is not symmetric. Okay? Not symmetric. So symmetric, not symmetric. So up here it says, a double box plot consists of two box plots graphed on the same number line. So in 7th grade, that is what we deal with, not just a single box plot. We're actually using two. We're using a double box plot so that you can compare the data sets. Okay? And whenever we're doing this on a box plot, you cannot find the mean because we don't know all of the numbers, but we can find the median, okay? And we also cannot find the mode in a box plot. We can if we have a whole data set, but we can find the median and we can find the range or the spread, okay? So that, again, that's on page 758. So now I'm going to move this. Okay, so when we look at this, we're going to write out a couple things about this, okay? So this says, Casey randomly surveyed a different group of students in her science and math classes. The double box plot shows the results for both classes. Compare their shapes, centers, and spreads. Write an inference you can make about the two populations. Okay, so when we're looking at these, it's asking us to compare these several things. So remember, spread would be range, center would be like median, spread can also be IQR, shape would be, for instance, is it symmetric or is it not symmetric? Okay, okay, so in this case, let's look here. Let's go on and figure out, for math, let's figure out the spread, which is the range, the median, and the IQR. We're going to do that together. Okay. So spread. So that would be from point to point. So from here all the way down to here, because I have to make sure these are all pieces of the data. So even if there was 30, if there wasn't a dot above 30, we wouldn't be using that. So basically for the range or the spread, we're going to do 30, take away 0, because that's the range, and we get 30. So this one says, how many times have you sent a text message this month? So I think that's kind of funny because I bet y'all have sent 30 in a day, I bet, or more. So now for median, remember median is right there. Okay, so median looks like it's right above that 10. Okay. And then the IQR is the interquartile range. Remember Q1, Q2, which median, and Q3. Okay? So Q3, we're going to subtract Q3 minus Q1. Q3 is 20. Take away Q1, which is 5. And we're getting a difference of 15. So that means this box represents 15 in there. One thing I did not mention is that in each section represents 25% of the data. I did not mention that earlier, and I meant to do that. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to write out the same thing, but I'm going to pause, and I want you to try to do it by yourself. Okay, I'm not going to do this one in an ed puzzle, just because this is our first time. I don't want anyone nervous about doing this. Okay, so now we're going to look at science. Okay, so let's write the word spread, median, and IQR. Now, if you don't have this paper in front of you, just do it on your own piece of paper. Don't copy everything down, but I want you to try to figure this out by looking at your screen, okay? So, I want you to look at spread. Remember, spread is range. So we're looking at the science class now. What's the range of this data? Find the maximum, the minimum, and subtract. So I'm seeing the greatest number is 30. The least value is 0. So to me, one thing I can tell immediately is both classes have the range that is the same. The range is the same for both math and science, okay? Or the spread is the same for both classes, okay? Now I want you to find the median. So look back where the median was for the math class. Figure it out for the science. So, median for math is right here. It's in that box. It's not right in the middle, but it's within the box, okay? So for science, it's right here, and I'm seeing that it's 20. So I would say the science class has a higher median than the math class, right? The science class has a higher median than the math class. Now I want you to do IQR. So look back at how we did IQR. So IQR, we do Q3, which is 20 on this one, and it looks like it's 20 for this one. Minus, what's the other side of the box? 15. So that's Q3, take away Q1, and that gives you an IQR of 5. Okay. Now, I just wanted you to look to see what they were saying as far as making some inferences. It says, neither box plot is symmetric in shape. Okay, and we talked about symmetric. We can tell that this little box part here looks symmetric right there, but the whole plot doesn't. 75% of the math class data is greater than 5 texts. So math class, so here's 5. 75% is greater than 5. So 25%, 50%, 75%. Remember, each section is 25%. 25, 50, 75. Okay, so that is a true statement. While 75%, oh, and I didn't finish that one. It looks like I cut that off. While 75% of science class, I can go back and look at that. Before it gets cut off. 75% of the science class data is greater than 15 texts. Okay, 25, 50, 75. So the science class looks like they are sending more text on average, it looks like, right? Because they have 15. As the 75% send 15 or more text, okay? Whereas math class, 75% have 5 or more, okay? Which I think these are low numbers. So now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to try to do this one by yourself, and you can ask me any questions about it once you